I had this imagination that I was going to get pregnant on my wedding night. By the time it dawned on me that I was actually pregnant, every day I used to always go to the front of the mirror and be checking, is my tummy showing?
Was your first trimester very different from the second trimester or the third trimester?
The interesting part came at the transition between first to second. I was having shooting, stabbing pains. I was so sure I was losing that pregnancy. And turned out I had a fibroid. As God will have it, the baby came out. And it came out very tiny.
Your second baby, right? The pregnancy experiences between both of them and the labor experiences, were there any differences?
I didn't want to go back again.
The trauma of number one.
No, it was traumatic. I'm just grateful and thankful that in spite of all of that, just look at these amazing boys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. For medical advisory and care, please consult your healthcare provider. Welcome to the Road to Motherhood podcast, where we talk about our experiences becoming mothers and all the things we wish we had known before we became mothers. I'm really excited about today's episode. I have a very dear friend of mine in the building, Tayo, and we'll be talking about her experience becoming a mom. She's a two-time mom. So I'm definitely looking forward to diving into her experience and finding out all the interesting things that happened on her journey to motherhood and all the things that we can learn. So please stay tuned. Looking forward to this. All right, Tayo, welcome. So happy to have you again.
Thank you, Adaeze. I'm Tayo Oloruntoba. I'm 38, going on 39 next month. I'm a mom of two big boys, 5 years apart. So and that counts for a good portion of my story. So it's great to have all of you watching and listening to my story today.
We're really happy to have you in the house, Tayo. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
On episode 1, you helped me walk through my story.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to walking through your story because I've never heard it before. So I'm also eager to hear it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the conception side of things. So for you and for your husband, right? After you guys got married, what was your plan? Did you have a plan? Like, when did you want to start having kids? Did you start right away? Did you give it some time, a few years? Like, walk us through that experience.
Okay, first of all, as a young girl, as I said that the last episode, we all had this dream of wanting to wait a little bit before having children. But I felt I didn't marry early because, I had this plan. Ask your husband, I used to tell him all my plans of what adulthood would be like, So I used to think that maybe by 24 that I'll be married. So I got married at 27. So as far as I was concerned, that was late. So before we got married, I was already telling my husband that we must have children immediately. That my biological clock is ticking. So I actually wanted to get pregnant. So I had this imagination that I was going to get pregnant on my wedding night. So I was expecting that by 2 weeks' time, I should have known that I'm already pregnant. Now, interestingly, I did get pregnant on time, but I did feel it wasn't kind of like my timeline. Okay. So as at 2 weeks into my marriage, I now saw my period. I was now unhappy. Like, why am I not pregnant yet? That I don't want people to be looking at me and wondering that why isn't she pregnant yet?
At 2 weeks.
I'm telling you.
Okay, so the pressure was getting worse.
But nobody was putting pressure on me. It was just me that was putting pressure on. My husband was like, left to him, we should have waited 1 year. So he did.
Okay, he wanted to wait.
He wanted to wait now, but I was the one that kept putting pressure on him that no, we must get pregnant now. No. Interestingly, I did get pregnant maybe a month into the wedding. But when doctors calculate, they will now backdate it to.
Okay.
So by the time I even went to the doctor and they checked, it now seemed as if I was pregnant maybe just a few days after.
You got married.
After I got married, the way they calculate it. So that was one of my own interesting, because I was like, as far as I'm concerned, I still saw my period, and why are they saying I was already pregnant? That sort of thing. So it was very funny for me because I just put unnecessary pressure on myself. So yeah.
Technically, on your timeline, it was 1 month after you got married that you got pregnant.
By my own timeline,
by your own
not
timeline.
The doctor's timeline.
Okay, so it was pretty easy for you to conceive. It was a quick conception period for you?
As at then, I didn't think it was easy. I think that was just like a childish thought. Yeah.
Okay, but that's good to hear. Wow. So 1 month after. Okay. So similar 1 month from the point of trying. Okay. So once you found out you guys were pregnant, right? What was your reaction like? I'm guessing you were over excited, like.
Yeah, we were both quite excited, because although I was a bit disappointed because I thought it would have been earlier. Because up till now, thinking about it, I still feel very silly, So technically, at that moment, we were excited, but my excitement was not complete. But of course, by the time it dawned on me that I was actually pregnant, of course, you can't be telling. We had just this small apartment, and there was this mirror in our bathroom. Every day, I used to always go to the front of the mirror and be checking, is my tummy showing? So.
Okay, so you were very excited.
I became excited like 2 months into the whole thing, yeah.
Okay. So now let's go into the first level. Like that level when things start getting interesting for some of us, not for all of us. So how was the pregnancy experience like for you? Okay,
one of the most interesting things that I was at my parents' place one time, and I think we're coming back. My husband traveled, so he actually traveled at I think even maybe a month into, or maybe he was not around at some point. So I was at my parents' place. So we're coming back from church, and I think my dad was driving. So I decided I was going to announce my pregnancy in the car at that moment. And I said, okay, everybody, I'm pregnant. I said, he knew. I already knew. So that when he started complaining that everything in the house was smelly, this was smelly. That's when you already figured out, because the mechanic had come to fix my dad's car, so they had spilled this used oil. Oh my God, I couldn't stay in the sitting room. Nobody else could smell it. I could smell it. I couldn't stand the smell. If you are boiling panla to cook, stockfish, there's this thing called stockfish that Africans used to cook. If you are boiling panla, I could not stay in the sitting room. I think those were the two main things I had issue with. That used oil, mechanic's oil, and the stockfish smell from the kitchen. So I couldn't stand those two things. And then I vomited a lot, very, very, it was nasty.
So but it was for a while.
But it wasn't throughout.
Okay.
Mine was just for a short while. Yeah.
Wow. So did you have any other symptoms aside from that? Was your first trimester very different from the second trimester or the third trimester? Was anything different?
The main thing first trimester was just the nausea and then vomiting. Okay. Now, the interesting part came at the transition between first to second. My husband was around at that time, so we decided to go for dinner. So we went for dinner, then we ate seafood. Okay. So some people had said that seafood, maybe contains some toxic substances that are not actually safe for pregnancy. So I don't know if that was the cause. It could have been a trigger. So on our way home, we live in Kuba. Went to town. Kuba is very far from the city center of Abuja. So we went to town to have dinner. As we were going back, I was just sitting in the car. Next thing, I just felt this tiny pain, like a jab of pain, and that was it. To be honest, I don't even remember when we got back to my parents' house, because my dad is a medical doctor, so he's usually our go-to person. All I remember is, in short, okay. So it turned out that they said I had malaria, and then my breasts began to boil like fire. I was having shooting, stabbing pains. I was so sure I was losing that pregnancy. I was 100% sure. I was like, okay, this is the end. After all the joy and celebration,
After you ate the seafood?
Yes, it happened
after you ate the seafood?
After I ate seafood. So my dad gave me an injection. I think it kind of stopped the contractions at that moment. So I had started antenatal. So I went to see my doctor. So after she looked at all the symptoms, she now asked me that we would need to do an ultrasound. And she did some abdominal examinations. And turned out I had a fibroid. Okay. So apparently, she now said the fibroid was what originated the whole thing. But I did have malaria. And maybe the seafood triggered it. I still don't know. All I know is that it was terrible pain. I was rolling on the floor in the sitting room.
Oh, that was bad.
Yes, I was rolling on the floor. It was terrible. So it was then, so that was the beginning of the battle with fibroid. So that fibroid was quite big. It was about 8 by 7 cm. So at some point, of course, at that point, it was much bigger than my baby. So even when we crossed into into the 3rd trimester, it now became a battle of which one is better for your safety and the baby's safety. Is it vaginal delivery or is it cesarean section? So we kept going back and forth. So apparently the fibroid was positioned in a manner that it was so close to the baby's head if they were going to do a CS. Because fibroid, if you cut into it, it could cause a lot of bleeding. Okay. So it was so close to the baby's head, and now it was just at the point where they were supposed to do the cesarean section. So it was kind of obstructing the cervix. So they kept saying that let's just keep praying that the fibroid would shift so that the baby's head can go past it. After some point, they realized that wasn't going to happen. They said, okay, now the only option for sure is cesarean section. And if we do a cesarean section, there has to be up to like 1 cm difference between the baby's head and the fibroid. And this was like, they were almost like the same size at that point in time. So of course, we had to prayerfully, for that there has to be a way. We were left with no option at this point in time. So eventually, we went in for the cesarean section, and as God will have it, the baby came out. And it came out very tiny. My baby was 2.5 kg. By the time we were leaving the hospital, after so many other dramas surrounding, he had jaundice. He became dehydrated under the UV light that was supposed to help with the jaundice. So by the time we were coming out, he was already 2 kg. He had lost 500 grams for the meager 2.5 that we had initially. So that's his own part of the story. Now, that same delivery drama for me, now my own pain started from preparation for surgery. You see that catheter insertion? I don't think, even the end, I think I've forgotten all the other pain. Up till now, if I hear catheter, it was so pain. I wasn't expecting it because I was shocked because I'm a medical person, so we had been trained to also insert catheter for people. Although it's not really my field, but we had to do nursing posting as physiotherapists. Okay. So we have seen, we've seen it being removed from patients, being inserted. So I had no idea it was painful. So when it was my turn, I screamed. I looked at the nurse like, why? I think this thing is not supposed to be painful. Why does mine have to be so painful? But apparently maybe it is, and because I haven't been at the receiving end all along.
And just to confirm, like, what was the catheter for? For anybody who doesn't know what that's for.
Okay, because I was going to have a surgery, and I won't be able to stand up from the bed and go to pee by myself. So it was attached to a urinary bag.
Okay. So to assist you while on the bed?
Yes.
Because you are going for a CS, right? A cesarean section.
Exactly.
Surgery. Okay.
So that was pain number 1. Now, pain number 2 came from still the hospital. This time around, it's actually my fault. Post-op, they always tell you don't eat solid food immediately.
Yes.
In Nigerian hospitals, let me put it that way. So I think I took pap for the first 2 or 3 meals, and then my neighbor, now a family friend, now brought pepper soup with goat meat. I was like, no, it has passed the 24 hours that I must eat this one. And I sat down, I balanced, and I ate very well. And nobody sent me. I suffered for that thing. I think for like 24 hours, I could not sit, I could not lie down, I could not stand.
Because of pepper soup?
I had gas distension. Because my bowels were not prepared for that. And I went ahead and I ate it. So I was in I couldn't even remember that all I needed was something that contains peppermint. So it was later when it now dawned on me, I said, go and get something with peppermint for me. And then after that, when you fart for the first time in like 48 hours, and you are literally rejoicing that, Father, thank you because I can finally fart. Within 45 minutes, all the suffering of like 24 hours had disappeared. So that was that one. And then the next one. So we left the hospital, did naming, did everything. Okay, your husband was actually there. He took my baby's first pictures. He came out all hairy and all of that. So then I've also told you about how my baby's own experience in the hospital. But then I won't deny the fact that my family being there made the whole difference. So even though I was one that went through all the pain and all of that, you know, but my mom slept in the hospital all through. She did it for me the 2 times, you know. She always had, I think that was the first time we bought, there was this mat, one foldable mat, like foam, like a mattress, a foldable mattress. She would just put it on the floor and then she would sleep there. And my husband used to go and come and, you know, also always doing all the errands. That reminds me. The errand thing made me remember that breastfeeding. You see that point in the hospital. Oh yeah, baby, come and suck breast now. The milk did not come out.
That's the story of its own.
Yeah.
Because even before you get to that, because I want to get into that.
Yeah.
Because that can be difficult for a lot of women.
Oh, a lot.
You mentioned your second baby, right? Your second child. The pregnancy experiences between both of them and the labor experiences, were there any differences?
Yes.
Because I want to make sure we also talk about that when you have more than one, what the differences are.
Okay, let me start by saying, first of all, I had that one 5 years after.
Okay, so 5-year age difference.
Yes. And that was because I kept making excuses. Because I didn't want to go back again.
The trauma of number one.
No, it was traumatic. If you're thinking about it now, I want to cry because I think these are some things I had pushed behind for so many years. Okay, it's all done and gone. I have 2 beautiful boys to show for it. And I knew if you remember, I said that there was a fibroid.
Yes.
That fibroid was not removed during the surgery. They had to leave it there because it could have caused excess bleeding. So the doctor told me, because I did bleed a lot on the theater
delivery table.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she told me that don't ever come back to my delivery table without having removed this fibroid. I said okay. So I held on to that. I was trusting God, though, that God will heal me and take away the fibroid, as my faith was very strong. You know, so while still trusting God, you know, and His ways are not our ways. So the fibroid was still there. So I kept using it as an excuse to not get pregnant. That if I don't remove the fibroid, I can't have.
And you won't go back again.
I had to go through a fibroid removal surgery, a myomectomy, so that I would be safe enough for me to have another baby. So while I was pregnant with my first son, he was very small because of the fibroid. So because of that, it wasn't a really big pregnancy. I didn't have a giant bump as such. So, and just to add, I was actually glowing very well during what pregnancies actually. Just like my skin, I was all bright. My hair was growing, my nails, it was really, really nice. That was just the best part, But of course, as I said earlier, I vomited a lot for both pregnancies.
Okay.
So those ones were constant for me, but just for a few months, not the entire thing. Now, in terms of size, my second baby was bigger.
Okay.
And because of that, it was as if my legs were going to get dislocated from my body. I was always having this
pelvic pain,
imbalance.
Okay.
Because of the baby's weight. I couldn't sleep on my side. I couldn't sleep on the left. I couldn't sleep on the right. I couldn't lie on my back. I couldn't lie on my tummy. So sleeping was always very difficult with the second pregnancy. But for the first one, it was quite a breeze. By the time I had gotten better, I was fine. So yeah, just to mention, when that incident happened with the fibroid, before then I was taking what people call designer pregnancy drugs. So I used to buy these expensive GNC and all those things. I had I think, is it dihydroxy alpha nucleic acid or something that's supposed to help with the baby's brain. So it had a bit of folic. Because I was trying to do everything by the books. By the time the whole thing happened, my doctor said, you see all these ones that you are using, it's not going to help your matter. That if you want your baby to survive, you have to use the full dose, because all those basic ones they give to us in Nigerian hospitals were not complete in those supposed designer drugs. So I had to switch to that. So by the time I was in having my second pregnancy, I didn't even bother. I just went straight for whichever one they were giving me at the hospital. Okay. That I didn't want any drama. And then the delivery, I had become very knowledgeable when I was having my second son, so to say. And I had 2 experiences of similar surgeries because of the fibroid removal surgery that I had. Because it's just like a cesarean section. They just open you up the same number of layers, bring out this, and stitch up. So, but before it happened, I wasn't told until later that somebody we know to an extent died on the theater table trying to have a baby. So I think it happened a day or 2 before my surgery. And my husband knowing fully well that I was sort of scared because the fibroid removal surgery was not also a nice experience. I had shortness of breath on the table and what have you. So even I was telling them that, see, my blood pressure is dropping. Imagine you are the one on the table, people are operating on you, and you are making comments on what you're seeing on the vital signs monitor and all of that. So I went in scared. So to me, it felt like a 50-50 chance of coming out. That if the same thing happens again, like what happened while the fibroid was being removed, that it would have been.
Now, sorry, just to confirm, when did they remove the fibroid? How soon after your first pregnancy and how close to your second pregnancy?
The fibroid was removed 4 years after my first pregnancy.
4 years after?
Yes.
Okay, so like a year before your next
months before.
Okay, months before.
I think we did the removal around October or so.
Okay.
Or November. Then I had to take in. They said I shouldn't wait for too long. I should just give it a little time, allow my uterus to heal a bit, and then take in, so that to reduce the chances of the fibroid
coming
growing
back.
again.
I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah. So by February, I took in because
so about 3 months after the fibroid
remember that
removal.
I took it. It reminds me of something very after I realized I was pregnant for the second child, when we went to the doctor. And then, they will calculate this. You are already due 7 weeks or 8 weeks. My husband doesn't work in Nigeria, so he goes and comes. So by the time the doctor calculated, he calculated that I was 8 weeks pregnant. And my husband was only home 6 weeks before. And I said, this guy wants to put me in trouble. Imagine if he's not a knowledgeable person,
yes,
and then they're telling him that your wife is 8 weeks pregnant. And then he knows that he was only home just 6 weeks ago. Like, so where is the baby coming from?
Can you imagine?
So that's one of the things that amazes me about medical practice and some of these things, So
you have to confirm to your husband, see, they are 6 weeks, or is it 8 weeks? It's not the
I have to make the doctor to explain. Now, what do you mean that my husband was not even around 8 weeks ago? So he had to explain to us that. But you could see the look on his face that women cannot be trusted. But of course, we know each other, and we knew that no such thing was going to happen. Unlike during the first pregnancy, it was backdated, but the scenario was a bit different. Yes. My husband was here, yes, and all of that. So that made for an interesting change, an interesting difference in both pregnancies. And then, of course, on the delivery table, as God to have it, eventually he did come out. He came out with this. He did come out healthy, and the whole surgery process ended up being fine. I was really, really scared. It was after that I now heard about the person that passed on doing the exact same thing. So there are so many reasons why we should be thankful to God that.
Absolutely.
Because there are some people that will think going for CS, like an elective CS, is an easy way out. It's not an easy way out.
Please talk about that.
Yes.
Thank you, because there is all this controversy, right, about vaginal delivery versus cesarean section delivery. And I'm happy that you have the experience of a cesarean to talk about, because I've also had people that I've spoken to before, other moms, who felt uncomfortable sharing their story because they had a cesarean section. And they felt like there was possibly a sense of shame or pressure from society to go the vaginal route. So please talk about the fact that the CS is not necessarily a walk in the park either. Please go ahead.
I actually used to think it was a walk.
Maybe for some.
That's what I thought too. Even before I got married, I said, I'm going for CS, so I cannot go through that pain of labor, But by the time it came an issue of life or death, I began to understand that, okay, CS or vaginal delivery, they were both risky. The pain from both of them were different. For instance, let me go back to the fact that after my cesarean section, I had an epidural. That is, they had to block my spine so that I wouldn't feel pain from my waist downwards.
Okay, so yes, they gave you an epidural for the CS, right?
Yes, for the CS. Now, that epidural on its own, it may save you from pain during the whole delivery. Don't get scared. During the whole,
because you know that I'm considering the epidural for next time around.
For the whole delivery and all that. But depending on, as I heard, depending on the type of needle that was used to insert it, if a very big one was used and you are not the type that heals properly, any little extra pressure on your abdomen will cause spinal fluid to squeeze out and enter into your nerves and cause pain. So you see, postpartum, going to toilet, I was always afraid to go and poo. Because the moment I sit, I would have started shaking. Once I noticed I need to poo, my whole body would have started shaking. Because I know the pain I'm going to go through. And that pain shoots all the way up to your head. You know, so it took like some extra 3 to 4 weeks before that could stop. But I noticed it started reducing. It was still there. It started reducing with time. And then it eventually did disappear. So no one is the easy way out. So if you do the vaginal delivery, you will feel pain during the delivery. You could have a tear, like in your own experience that we shared the other time. So there's so there is really no easy one. So you see, maternal health, I don't think we flog the issue well enough. You know, people keep talking, today is Maternal Health Day, Mother and Child Day. Yeah. We don't flog it enough. That's why do you think that women in the rural areas, they die like chicken from giving birth? We, to the glory of God, we are blessed to have access to all this healthcare, you know, that they don't have. But we have it, and we still have these gory stories. So imagine what...
Talk less of somebody in a different setting, in a more rural setting with less access to good healthcare.
So honestly, my birth stories, postpartum stories, I'm just grateful and thankful that in spite of all of that, just look at these amazing boys. And
I'm really grateful for your life, grateful for your children's lives. I also want you to talk a bit about that recovery from the CS, right? So you mentioned some of the postpartum experience, difficulty going to the restroom, using the toilet.
Yes.
The fear that brought to you.
Yes.
How long did that last? You said eventually it went away.
Yeah,
how long did that?
About 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so
about
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
So anything else, is there anything else that happened during your postpartum experience that stands out to you?
This was not just around, not just more like postnatal generally.
Okay.
Because there was this, there's this thing that in our culture, they believe that as a breastfeeding mom, you need to be taking pap and yogurt and milk and all these things. Those things made me blow up. You know, my mom was so bad that there's this brand of yogurt that is very, very rich, very fattening. They'll make pap for me. I'll mix it. I'll eat it. Before I knew what was happening, I was like 2 times my normal self. But by the time I saw a picture of myself after a while, I could hardly recognize me. So since then, I used to always preach to people, don't listen to them, just eat healthy and drink lots of water. Your breast milk will still come and your baby will be healthy.
Now, I want to ask you, after you ate all that, did it improve the supply? Let's just know.
It did not improve the supply.
Okay, so for you, it didn't even improve the supply?
It did not. It did not at all.
Because I also was told to take some of those things, and I took some pap. I drank a lot of pepper soup, all these things to help. My supply was still one kind. So it came over. It wasn't as if it was one of those stronger supplies. It was a struggle to get it out, to get the milk out. So yeah. Okay. That's interesting to hear. Okay, so aside from that, what about things like postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression? Did any of these things come knocking at your door?
I think the only anxiety I can remember that I had was, the fear of whether your baby is still alive. But I've spoken with a lot of mothers, and it seems everybody seems to go through the same. I think you mentioned it during your last time. I wake up in the middle of the night and go and check, is he still breathing? So by those it's common. Even the men do it too, actually. Because sometimes maybe they're always crying, always running there. So once all of a sudden when they are calm, you wonder, I hope
which
all
is funny.
is well. Yeah.
Like when they're actually quiet and very calm, you're like,
Yes.
is everything okay?
So I think that apart from that, nothing so serious, you know. So, but the breastfeeding, but lack of sleep, that
So
one
how
was
did
major.
that affect you? Because that was a big one for me. Like getting used to that. So I'm not even used to it really. But how did that affect you?
I think I had a fear of my baby falling from my hands.
From tiredness?
Yes, because he has actually rolled off before, but as God will have it, wasn't on the floor.
I think they all roll off at some point.
I know, right?
At least once.
Honestly, I think a friend of mine had told me that I think her own baby fell on the floor actually. So, but it was just God that saved the baby. So I was very conscious of it, but at the same time, I still couldn't help it. There's sometimes when they are not even breastfeeding, but they're just awake and keeping you awake. You can't sleep. You can't stay awake. You are closing your eyes, opening your eyes, closing your eyes, opening your eyes, and just pray, God, please don't let this baby fall off from my hand, you know. So and then with the feeding part, you know, I used to have to always express so that my husband feeds at night. So you make the baby sleep, then put him back, you know, and all that. But that was for the first, but for my second, he was hardly around. Okay. So we had a living nanny that she even wanted to always keep the baby with her. So it's only when the baby needs to breastfeed that she'll bring the baby to me. So that was quite helpful too. But for the first 1 month or so, or 6 weeks, my mom used to always be with me, both times, from the hospital till when we are home, and she feels I'm comfortable enough to go on my own.
Wow. So you had a strong support system as well?
Oh, yes, I did.
Your husband, your mom, the nanny?
Yes.
Okay, really good to hear.
Yes, very good.
And then I know that, because I know there's so much more I want to also learn about your postpartum experience. Mommy brain. Now, that concept of forgetting
Don't worry,
things,
that one has not ended.
Because I was going to ask you, how was that for you? Because that also shocked me. The mommy brain part of forgetting things, taking a longer time to process things. I think my brain is I still feel like I have bandage over it. So how was that for you?
I think things just begin to get foggy.
The fogginess.
I think it's worse when you're not studying. If you have nothing to study for, it suddenly feels as if I don't think this brain is working well anymore. Like you're trying to recall even the tiniest detail. Yeah. So I had to start deliberately tasking myself with some little things to think about or to work on or stuff like I can't afford to
just to keep it exercised, to keep it going.
So sometimes just simple things that you just forget. Not like maybe where I put something, that one is an everyday issue, but basic information. You know, even about myself, some things you have to rack your brain over and over to remember sometimes. But after some time, it actually just wears off,
Wow. Well, you said that it hasn't fully gone now. After how much time?
No.
How many years now?
I said not fully gone. It's still there. And because the kind of job I do is not a cerebral tasking job. So I have to deliberately put myself in the position where, okay, you read this, try and remember this one, you know, just to keep my brain in check,
Okay. Well, you know what? It gives me comfort knowing that it's not just me that went through that mommy brain thing. Not saying that I'm happy that you're going through it, but at least there's a comfort in shared experience.
Yes. I think most people that I've talked to actually have experienced it and probably still do. Because by the time you think of the work you have to do, juggling a job or business, with being a mom, being a wife, and all of that. We are multitasking by nature. In spite of that, you have to still compartmentalize and remember everything. I'm this kind of person. I have to have everything in compartments. The moment there's a haze between two lines, I become confused. So I can be very strict. Okay, no, this one is for this one is for that. So I'm very finicky with people trying to scatter me, so to say. So I get very, very edgy. The moment you disrupt my plans, you know, so I try to keep my compartments the way they are so that fogginess does not even happen.
Very smart idea.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up something. You said women are naturally multitaskers. Yes and no in my mind. To me, I don't think we're ever meant to be multitasking anything, but I think we make it work. But you also talked about career, managing your business, motherhood. You're a wife as well. So once you became a mom, how did you start managing it? You said compartments. So that's clearly one thing you did.
Yes.
Is there anything else you did?
Sacrifice.
Good. Please talk about that.
Some things have to go for others. For instance, now this happened when my son was around, my first son was around 2, 3. So my husband had to start traveling for longer periods of time. And I was working as a physiotherapist in a clinic, and I was running a baking business, and I still had to run the home and still
All at
be
the same
there
time.
for my son.
Only you.
Yes. So, and I'm this kind of person that I like to give excellence to whatever I'm doing. And the moment I'm unable to, then it's not worth it for me anymore. So it got to a point that I had to choose. That, okay, am I going to keep being a home baker? Because I make cakes, so I had to, and it required staying awake through the night.
Okay.
And then I would still have to wake up early in the morning and go to work, take care of my child, spend time with him. This is not necessarily around the bed, but it's still part of the motherhood thing. So I realized that I can't continue to punish my son this way because he didn't send me a message. So I decided that I had to choose one. So and I loved both jobs actually, because there are things I have to do that I have to use my hands. So I love to work with my hands. So as a physiotherapist, I love to work with my hands. As a baker, I have to work with my hands. So I loved both jobs. So it was a difficult decision because I couldn't do all of it by myself. Because what my husband could have been doing, I had to do all. So I ended up choosing being a home baker, which was more flexible.
Okay.
I didn't have to answer to anyone. I could choose not to work on a certain day because my son needed me, and stuff like that. So it involves sacrifice at some point,
Thank you for talking about that. And I had to ask you that question because, there's a lot of messaging in the media now that I see as part of our current feminist movement or womanist movement, whatever I want to call it these days, that says, you can have it all. And I think that messaging is technically true. You can have it all, yes.
Yeah.
Now, there's also another addition to it that I've heard. You can have it all, but not at the same time. Now, some people will argue that you can have it all at the same time. I think I can technically accept that.
At what cost?
But then there's the other level. Can you have it all at the same time, at the same level? Prioritizing everything at the same level? I don't think so. I think there are seasons for things, right? So I think when you just give birth to a baby, because that baby is 100% dependent on you to survive. So I find it hard to believe that you can be fully invested in helping that baby survive in that initial period, whether it's the first 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or whatever, and still believe that you can be fully invested in being whatever you are doing, being in your career at the highest capacity.
True.
Or being something else at the highest capacity. I think you can have it all. However, I do think you can have it all maybe at different times in some situations.
True.
Or even if at the same time, at different levels and different priorities. So that's nuance that I think people should add into these statements when you just make a blanket statement.
True.
Because I think sometimes it puts undue pressure on women who feel as if, okay, if I can have it all at the same time, then maybe if they start struggling in an area or they have to make a sacrifice, they get very upset
and
or
become disappointed in themselves.
Or like, oh my God, I couldn't do it all. Yeah, use wisdom too. You can have it all at the same time, but can it be at the same level? Maybe
I'm
not.
not so sure.
And maybe just for a particular season, right? Like seasons are different.
Yeah.
The initial newborn, infant, toddler season is different from when your kids are 7 and beyond. And then when they are teenagers, as they get more independent, and then you can maybe shift priorities a bit and do more of other things. It's just thoughts I have in my head, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just glad that you talked about your experience and how you managed it and how you also had to make a sacrifice of one of your jobs as well.
In line with what you said, there's this motto from that my husband and I have, that the Lord makes everything beautiful in His time.
In His time.
So, and because of that, we don't rush things we want to do. And so even if we have goals, we each have goals. We have goals as a family. He has his own goals. I have my own goals. When for some reason, through the grace of God, we somehow know when it's time for something. And when that time comes, it comes with ease. But the moment you realize that you are struggling, that means it's not, the timing is probably wrong, or it's not even God's will for you at that point in time of your life. You understand? So I think a lot of us, we have to be real with ourselves. Because when you started when you started talking about it, I said that at what cost? Let's assume you are such a superwoman and you can do all of that at the same priority level at once, achieving the results you want.
Your desired outcome for all of them.
What about your health? Because something has to go.
Tayo, preach. Preach health. Something
has to go.
No, preach it, because even these days you hear all these stories about women burning out, excessive stress, women having all these even early deaths. You have to preach these things, because what about your health? Just like you said, what about your health?
I've had interesting scenarios with my health. There was a time, okay, it wasn't even motherhood related. It was work related. At the time I was into photography, and then I did someone's event, like my neighbor's birthday, and somehow it was like a 1 in a million chance. My laptop fell, and the memory card that was in it broke into 2. That tiny SD card broke, and I lost everything. So I of course, at that moment, I was distraught. Yeah. As in, I was totally distraught. And then that was the first time I had an issue with my blood pressure. I think it's almost like, what's the big deal? Because, of course, I always want to do anything I do as excellently as I can at that point in time. So as at that time, I started having some mild issues with my blood pressure. So there was a time I was working. My husband was not even in the country. I was working there maybe around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. at night. He just called me and said, babe, the Holy Spirit said I should tell you that you should go and sleep. Wow. So I just left everything I was doing and I went to sleep. And by the time I went to work the following morning, I had my BP checked and it was about 140/90. And how old was I? I think I was about to be 30 when that happened. So that was just like a wake-up call, because in my father's family, there's a history of hypertension, and I didn't want to be that person. So, of course, prayerfully, it was dealt with. So I've learned proper ways to manage my health to ensure that such a thing does not happen again. And because of that, I'm in the category of I cannot come and go and kill myself. So I take things easy. Yeah. I know my boundaries. And to be honest, God actually is good to me in such a way that if I'm supposed to be resting, it takes work away. So I'm forced to rest, whether I like it or not. So sometimes when we're having downtimes in business, I may not really bother as such. Because especially if I know I had been stressed maybe weeks prior to that time. So I know that, okay, this is God asking me to rest. So, and then I know that I just know that, okay, maybe in another 1 week, and it almost always happens like that. So we really should drive, we should want more. We should want to thrive, we should want to flourish, but not at the expense of our health, because at the end of the day, what's the essence of everything when the children we claim to be doing all these things for don't even have us to share all of that? Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that will help a lot of women listening as well.
Yeah.
Because that pressure, I think, is there. Even more now than before. That sense of do it all at the same time.
So I'm not saying we shouldn't strive for excellence.
Of course.
Excellence is very important, but with wisdom.
With wisdom. Thank you. So okay, let's see. What else would I love to know about your experience? 2 more things overall. Then I'll have a few questions, like a few rapid fire questions to ask. 2 things. 1, did anything shock you about any of your experiences, from conception to pregnancy to labor and delivery to postpartum? Anything shock you? And do you have any regrets about anything?
The one thing that shocked me, which is a bit funny, is the fact that I realized that when I said, this aversive smell, and then the part where the doctor said that my pregnancy is 8 weeks, when I knew that my husband wasn't home until like 6 weeks ago, So those are 2 things
that shocked you. And that's why I love that we're sharing our stories, because other women, I'm sure, can relate. Other moms who might, like you said, you thought you were the only one going through this.
That I couldn't even talk about.
And that you couldn't even talk about it. And lo and behold, you're not the only one. Okay, anything that you regret from the experience or experiences?
I don't. I'm not even in the position to have regrets because there were no choices I made by myself.
Okay.
So everything that happened, especially around the delivery, were choices made for me medically. So I really couldn't have done anything differently, except I could have orchestrated and made sure that my children were born in a place where the passport can allow them travel anywhere. But apart from that, no. Okay. No regrets that I can actually point out. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tayo.
Thank you.
So we're almost done.
Okay.
I just have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's about 10 questions.
Okay.
And you'll have 5 seconds or less to answer. So try to be quick about it. And me that's telling you this, I wasn't quick about it.
I was about to say so.
You asked me the same question.
I was like, you don't even have a room for payback.
But just try.
Okay,
I'll give you some time grace. I'll
try.
Okay, so question number 1. Talking or texting?
Texting.
My kind of person. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Love chocolate.
Not vanilla.
Not maybe except in terms of for ice cream and chocolate dessert and chocolate Mars Snickers kind of chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So chocolate over vanilla.
Chocolate over vanilla. Right. Anytime, any day, except in cakes.
Okay. So beach vacation or hiking?
I really would like any actually. I need.
You're willing to go and hike?
Anyone. As long as it's the vacation, right? Well done. But beach.
Well done.
There's more fun at the beach. Hiking is work.
Hiking is work.
Is work.
I won't anything.
But beach, if you are bikini ready,
Okay, so favorite childhood movie?
Sound of Music.
Same one. We have the same one.
Though a deer, a female deer, rain, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself, far a longer way to run.
Okay, so we have the same one.
Yes.
And then a sound you love.
I'm not too sure. I don't think I'm a sound person. Okay. So I don't have any memorable. I try to rack my brain, but I don't have any particular sound I love, like that I've thought of as a sound I love. Yeah.
Okay. So, introvert or extrovert? I'm throwing this one in there.
I think I'm a bit of both,
but
more of an introvert because because they said that those that would rather hang out with themselves, I'd rather hang out with myself.
Okay.
But I know I need to do. There are some things I do because I have to. I actually like to be around people, but going out of my way, I'm learning to do that. But by nature, I think I'm an introvert.
Okay. So when you think of motherhood, what's one word that describes motherhood for you?
Strength.
Strength of a woman. There's a song like that. Yeah. I think it's a Shaggy song. Then, okay, so what's the biggest lesson you've learned from motherhood so far?
So far, change. It's not always the same. There are different phases. Like now I have 2 boys that they have a huge age gap. The approach to motherhood to both of them is very different. And I know that I have my strengths with when my children are younger than when they're older. I think it's easier dealing with my 5-year-old than my 10-year-old because the expectations are different.
Okay.
My 5-year-old just wants to be kissed and hugged and pampered and not punished for what he did wrong. And then my 10-year-old just wants to be understood. He wants to be understood whether he's doing the wrong thing or he's doing the right thing. He doesn't want to be corrected, but he knows he has to be corrected. And then he wants you to be more friendly and be able to play the kind of things he wants to play and stuff like that. So it's a bit more challenging because I remember parenting him when he was 2, 3, 4, 5 was a whole lot easier because he just wanted to be around his mommy, But now he just wants, mommy, this is why I want this one. And if I'm not, you can tell from his expression that this woman probably just doesn't get me.
Get it.
So I think my husband tends to get him more at this stage than me. So I'm trying. Ko easy, rara. In my language, that means it's not easy at all.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
You're giving me a future look into what it could be like.
Yes. So while they just want to be around you, while they just want to be kissed and hugged, enjoy those moments.
I'm enjoying it now.
Because they don't last long. But not all children are the same though. You know, you can end up having this person that by nature, it just comes to them with ease, you know.
Okay.
So yeah. Something happened, was it yesterday? Or no, this morning. I think my older son was told that he lost something, and he was not giving me this look that he didn't lose it. And then he was having this frown on his face. Luckily, there was a picture of him when he was about 3 or 4 on the fridge. And I said, look at you. Now look at you. He now looked at it, he now smiled because he got the gist that it's so not a big deal for you to frown your face so much, yeah. So it changes with time. Yeah.
Different seasons.
There are different seasons in motherhood. So we have to go with the flow as the changes come. Yeah.
And my final rapid fire question. When your kids grow up, when they are adults, what would you like them to say about you as their mother?
My mommy is rich.
Hey! I received that for you.
Yes, I received it because recently something happened, and then I think because I'm the one that always says no. Their dad is not around, so he doesn't even have to turn them down too often. So every time, mommy, if I ask you, I always say no. So one day my 5-year-old said, my mommy does not have money. Only my daddy has money. I said, don't worry, I'll be rich one day. You know, but that's just for fun. I like them to see me as a resilient woman and recognize that I made sacrifices at some point and that they are worth it. Yeah.
So they'll be saying, my mommy is rich, resilient, and sacrificial.
Yeah,
Very
I think
well
I like that combination.
Thank you so much, Tayo. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
So good to hear your story. We're friends and I didn't know your story. Can you imagine?
Abi. No, it's because your husband is always hiding you from himself.
So happy to hear your story.
Same
Thank you
here.
so
Thank
much.
Thank you for listening to my story.
I appreciate you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So everyone, that is episode 2 with the lovely Tayo, a fantastic friend of mine that has 2 boys and has gone through very interesting experiences as well, from her point of pregnancy to labor and delivery and postpartum. So if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know, let Tayo know. Like the episode, however, on whatever platform you're on, please like the episode, please comment, please subscribe if it's on YouTube or any other subscribing platform that you're listening or watching this on. Please make sure to add a comment if you want us to know something that really stood out to you. If you have any questions, please add them as well in the comments. We'll do our best to pull questions and try to host a live Q&A live for you. So please do that. We appreciate it. Share with a woman you know, share with a man you know that is supporting a woman that will soon become a mother or is already a mother. All right. Thank you so much. Until the next episode. Over and out. Bye-bye. High five. Well done.
Well done.